You ready? Wow, I like that. You just simply have a flick of the wrist, a proper semicircle. An eye in there, I blow like so. And things happen.
Cartooning meant more to me than just funny pictures. I needed to apply it as a weapon almost. I really thought if I ever learned to draw properly, I would try to change the world for the better.
Are you ready for this? Because it might not be very good, but it might be great too. Wow. Ooh, I love it.
This guy, Ralph Steadman, was a very evil-minded, twisty kind of guy.
My idea of humor was that it would be slightly maniacal.
I wanted to get it out of my system. It was something that was just waiting to erupt.
I need a couple of drinks, actually, to start on this. Really did.
On my first visit to America, I met up with
Hunter S. Thompson.
Get in here, this damn place!
When Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas came in, I think people were stunned by it. It was so funny and dangerous and wild. Ralph was willing to go to extremes that Hunter was not willing to. Hunter realized that Ralph was crazier than him.
it was the essence of my work to distort and yet maintain the likeness.
The energy, the anger, the venom that was just spewed out. That's what I loved.
It's what we're thinking at the back of our heads, but aren't capable of getting it out. Look at Ralph as a person. Never met a warmer, generous. He's not his paintings.
If you surprise yourself still, really, you could have a good trip. It's a good way to do stuff, for no good reason.
Still as relevant today as it was then. Great. Amazing. Just incredible.
Steadman developed an early displeasure with authority at Abergele Grammar School, where he was terrorized by the headmaster, who routinely caned the boys. He was his own little disciplinarian, though, rushing home from school to do his homework before letting himself build his model airplanes. That work ethic stayed with him, and later it gave Hunter Thompson no end of irritation when Steadman would complete his drawings before Hunter had even written a word. Steadman finished an art school correspondence course in 1956 after serving in the RAF. He also had his first cartoon published in the Manchester Evening Chronicle. He moved to London, continuing to study technical drawing, working with a mentor, and getting work as a newspaper cartoonist. Steadman had his work published in Punch magazine and on the cover. Newspaper cartooning began to feel too limiting. He wanted to use his cartooning as a vehicle for expression or protest. In 1961, drawing on influences like George Grosz and John Hartfield, Steadman began drawing for the satirical and current affairs magazine Private Eye. Along with a group of other artists, he collaborated on this mural, which hung in the offices of Private Eye in the 1960s. Incredibly wide-ranging, Steadman also illustrated several children's books. His Alice in Wonderland turned the White Rabbit into a commuter, always late for work. The caterpillar sort of resembles John Lennon in a fog of smoke. And Tenniel's Mad Hatter becomes a union leader. Tenniel's Alice is cautious. Here the Cheshire Cat is sinister. Steadman's Alice glowers with impatience. In 1970, Steadman was assigned to work with Hunter Thompson, a renegade journalist, on an article about the Kentucky Derby for Scanlon's Monthly. It began badly for Steadman. Thompson greeted him with the line, "They told me you were weird, but not that weird," and it got worse. Steadman showed some of the locals the portraits he'd drawn of them, and he came close to getting beaten up. Thompson, who was drunk and ill-tempered, sprayed Steadman with mace. Don't forget, Steadman had finished all of his drawings before Thompson had written a word. After the article was published, an editor from the Boston Globe wrote to Thompson praising the piece, which he called pure gonzo. Gonzo journalism, in which the reporter becomes the story, was born. After Steadman got back to England, he was hired by the London Times to draw political cartoons. As letters of complaint from readers started to pile up on his desk, Steadman heard from Thompson. "Dear Ralph," he wrote, "You filthy, twisted pervert. I'll beat your ass like a gong for that drawing you did of me." Thompson went on to propose what he called a king bitch dog fucker of an idea, that they travel around America and produce a series of articles, quote, "so weird and frightful as to stagger every mind in journalism." And so began the drug and drink-fueled Fear and Loathing in Las Vegas, which was serialized in Rolling Stone magazine and became a movie starring Johnny Depp. It was also the beginning of a lifelong collaboration that included Fear and Loathing on the Campaign Trail, The Curse of Lono, Polo is My Life, and many pieces for Rolling Stone magazine. Steadman also continued to write and illustrate his own books in his now characteristic scratch and splatter style, both for adults and for children. He was also commissioned to design theater posters and sets for the stage. Steadman had a 13-year collaboration with Odd Bin's wine merchants. He was commissioned to travel the world to draw vineyards, wine labels, and a mural for their office, as well as other ephemera. In 2009, he published a book, The Grapes of Ralph, Wine According to Ralph Steadman. Steadman collaborated with Sari Levy, a filmmaker, on 3 books about extinct and endangered birds and animals. At the same time, Steadman was commissioned to make portraits of the cast of Breaking Bad for the DVD box set. I think the Breaking Bad series are my favorite caricatures that he's done. Steadman has this version of Walter on his site, but I actually like the bald Walter better myself. Only 6 of the 7 portraits were used. The 7th, the last in this series, ran into unspecified contractual problems. And here are just a few other miscellaneous caricatures and cartoons I thought it would be nice to end with. Former magazine editor, current NPR host. Here are 2 more of the many drawings he did of Hunter Thompson, and one of his self-portraits.